Okay, welcome into my channel, Philadelphia Walks PTSD. My name is Sharon Cole, or Sharon, or Cole, however you want to refer to me is fine. I'm here on day 35 of my 365-day campaign of one video each day, 365 days, to ask for donations to make up for the losses and a life lost in general, which began in 2011 with me experiencing what I believe to be a series of orchestrated events that made me believe that I'd be murdered in my apartment at 626 South 19th Street, apartment 1F. That's a front apartment in the front of a row home. It was pretty terrorizing. I had PTSD out the ASS. A whole bunch of messages were kind of sent to my brain because it's almost like my world exploded. But I do know that I believed I'd be murdered that evening. I couldn't even hold the phone to call my sister or police. But turns out when you're scared, SHITLESS, the body goes limp and the muscles don't know what to do. And I was convulsing, trembling, shaking, believing 100, 200, 300% that someone was going to come into my door from the basement. At some point, I believed that someone break into the basement and they're going to come up, break into my apartment and murder me. And this is the end of my life. That's how they made it seem. From there, games commenced. And every time I would reach out to, say, a new-ish friend, I had met some people in the years leading up to 2011. And I was participating in a whole bunch of things. And every time I would meet up with them, it seemed like they were playing a game of we're in Satan's club. I don't know who they are or why they do it. But they would have conversations that made it seem like they knew my private business. And this would be stuff that's so private, they shouldn't know it. They would only know it if the apartment was bugged or if they could see somehow into my world. And there's no word of mouth or anything like that. If I talk privately to my mom, that information shouldn't show up over here on these friends whose dogs I also watched. So how did they know? So anyway, with that said, I wanted to bring up another issue that's part and parcel of this whole major thing that just keeps going on and on. And some people will disagree, but I kind of think it's part of the programming or part of the major mind fuck, if you will. Philadelphia had a major scene, if you will, of Vinyasa Flow yoga. Vinyasa is sort of a branch off, if you will, from Ashtanga. Ashtanga would be like the normal base, traditional yoga that you would, often see depicted as the original-ish yoga. It would be more original. Then Vinyasa stemmed off from that. And there was a very beautiful Vinyasa Flow practice, and a lot of studios here offered 75 to 90-minute Vinyasa Flow. That was the traditional, normal, and I wound up taking this. It was offered to people who didn't have a lot of money even. They had donation-based yoga and specially priced yoga, community yoga, all this stuff to make it more accessible to people who might not otherwise be able to afford yoga. So I developed my practice through this, which helped me get through psychologically through whatever was going on out here on the streets. And it was a zoo out here. It was a shit show, and people know it. It's quieted down because of the pandemic, and people have left, which brings me to something that changed once the Trump administration came in. All of a sudden, yoga, the Vinyasa Flow format, let me restate that because I saw a blip in the screen. Once the Trump administration came in and technically elected in 2016, but inaugurated in January of 2017, I didn't take as much yoga because I wrote books and stuff like this, which kind of interrupted my normal practice, and also money was an issue, even for donation-based. But what I noticed was anytime I got out to get donation-based yoga, all of a sudden it was like night and day. It would be like showing up to a football game and no one threw a football. It was that bad. I showed up one day and was like, what happened to the normal flow? They are doing poses out of sequence. There was a very specific sequence that technically it's safer. You have certain stages of yoga practice, and you do these types of uh, you know, asanas or poses first, and then you progress to the next, and so forth and so on. So anyway, it helps the body to do poses in the correct order. Otherwise, the body could be harmed. And it enables and helps the body be able to get into more advanced poses to do it correctly. It started to disappear in 2017, this correct sequence. And people were jumbling it up all over the place. And people are doing sitting poses when they should be doing standing poses. It didn't make any sense. It's part of the mind fuck. Over time, things started to disappear and people started offering more 1 hour yoga. The body benefits from more than an hour. The people who are practicing yoga now don't really know the depths of hard work and rewards. I honestly believe that. No offense to people trying out there. Also, yoga is 3 times more expensive these days for 1 hour versus an hour and a half or an hour and 15 minutes. Is it part of a major mind F? Are there other yogis out there who really miss the old practice? There were many years, I guess between the mid to early 2000s to about the pandemic, and that's about it. Everybody left, and you can't find it, not even in New York. I've looked at schedules in New York City and Philly, and no 75 to 90-minute yoga, Vinyasa Flow. I was in Florida for 2.5 years, and I couldn't find 75 to 90-minute yoga. Everything was 1 hour, and new companies, new studios were coming in, and they're doing something to change yoga. All of a sudden, they're adding HIIT or some sort of other types of physical things. And some people will say, well, you have to adapt to the times. Yoga is a sacred practice. People take it very seriously. It's not like working out at the gym. It is a mind, body, and spirit practice. It's a very specific type of thing. It's not gym rat-ish. If you're doing HIIT at a yoga studio, there's something wrong. If you have dumbbells and weights at a yoga studio, there's something wrong. It's not really yoga. So who are these people coming in crashing the party? I have heard that there was at least one yoga studio that was very settled here. They really brought Vinyasa Flow to the city. They left after the pandemic because trying to get back on their feet was too much, but also someone wondered if people showing up to the yoga class were starting to become too strange and behaving badly. It's like a silent war or a Holocaust. There are people with a certain mindset and they want to destroy certain types of people. They perceive people a certain way because of a very limited, narrow view. And they will actually show up and carry out antics to annoy the hell out of people as best they can within the law. They will actually pay the money and show up to yoga. That is gang stalking. That is group stalking. That is orchestrated harassment. That is a silent war. I already know what it is. I was slammed by those mentalities. I don't know why they chose me. I don't know who else they might have chosen. I kept looking for groups, like who else knows about this stuff? I called hotlines. They even had hotlines back in the day. Electronic harassment was the closest hotline I could get or could find that was out there for most people. They even built a special community and house in, I think, Arizona or Nevada. Derek Robinson, I think, or Derek something. It's been a while. I can't find him any longer. But he headed up a hotline and actually was able to get enough funding to create a small community where people who were heavily gang stalked and couldn't figure out how to survive any longer were able to move to. I don't know how those people got there, but they were trying to explain, this is what's going on. It's the brain. They don't even have words for everything that can go on. The dictionary, Oxford will have to come out, Cambridge people will have to be willing to allow a new vernacular to form because of the war that's going on. It's a serious problem that in the United States today, potentially the entire United States, you might not ever be able to find the original 75 to 90-minute yoga. People practicing yoga today and starting today, you will be learning something totally different. And it saddens me because there is a spiritual aspect to the yoga that I learned. And it was authentic. And when you walked in, it wasn't some spa like, oh, we're going to have a party. No. It was an ancient sacred tradition, and it made people stronger. Whatever people are practicing in these mirrored studios that are heated and everything else, I don't know what to say. It's all about vanity. It's not about depth or soul or spirit. It's a major part of the mind funk. It's a different stage. Some people are saying it's a different stage. Other people are saying, well, also people are coming in and behaving badly. So it's part and parcel. Unless they're forcing people to close their studios, the pandemic and people behaving strangely, it's actually strange. Like, what is it? They're trying to make other people look mentally ill, but they're the sick ones, whoever these people are. So it goes hand in hand. I don't know what to say. But in general, just imagine that you show up to the Super Bowl and they didn't play football and you just paid $600 for a ticket. And everybody else is acting like it's normal. And you're sitting there going, that is a major mind fuck. And that is what I'm used to. And that is why I'm seeking people who understand and who have deep pockets. I am used to wondering, am I the only one who is expected to see football today or yoga? Everybody else is acting like everything's okay. Am I the only one who cares about a sizable hole by the toilet in the bathroom at a yoga studio? Everyone else is acting like it's no big deal. Why is it okay that people are being raped? Why is it okay that people are being exploited? And I walk around here. In the past, I would have never walked around with a camera. I do now for protection. And I walk quickly enough that I'm not exploiting one single person. And they do it all over the United States now, and people have been using cameras on the streets forever. People have been showing up in the background on news since day one without permission or consent. What's the problem? So hopefully they'll play football for the Super Bowl. Can you imagine if they didn't? And you would realize, an entire world would realize, oh, someone just played a major trick on us. Can you imagine if you show up to I'm waiting for it to happen. That's how bad this was. I am used to showing up to the Super Bowl and no one's playing football. That is my new life. I show up to work somewhere and no one's doing the job. And that drives people crazy. Okay, well, that's it. Have a nice day. I was made to believe I'd be murdered. And people talk in weird ways. They're actually sick and mentally ill. They want to drive the target mentally ill. No such luck. Guess the game's ending. Okay, thank you. I hope you get the help you need.